So today, we're going to take a trip around the globe to explore the fascinating, really complex, and sometimes kind of contradictory relationship we have with animals. From our homes to our communities and even our laws, this bond, well, it's always changing. So, what does this relationship actually look like on the ground? Day to day. Well, the answer isn't in some textbook. It's unfolding right now in headlines from all over the world. These stories, they really show us our responsibilities, our compassion, and our constant quest to understand them better. Okay, let's dive in. All right, let's start with the tougher side of things. When our duty to care for animals runs up against some pretty complex challenges and really difficult large-scale decisions. Our first story kicks off in the United States, and it all starts with a popular dog treat. But for some pet owners, it turned into a story about a hidden danger they never ever saw coming. So, what was at the heart of this problem? An undeclared allergen. And it works just like it does with human food. An ingredient that isn't on the label can be a serious risk. In this case, the secret ingredient was peanuts, which, yeah, they're fine for most dogs, but for that rare few with a severe allergy, it can be really dangerous. And this is where you see the system kind of click into gear. The FDA put out an alert, and the company started a voluntary recall. The advice was super clear: stop using the product and bring it back. It's a really powerful example of how consumer protection and corporate responsibility are supposed to work when it comes to our pets. Okay, so while that issue in the US was thankfully contained by a recall, our next story from the United Kingdom, well, it shows what happens when a problem explodes into this huge public debate. Here, a government policy has created a deeply emotional and logistical crisis. And the results of this new ban? Get this. Hundreds of perfectly healthy American XL Bully dogs are now without a home. Unlike a hidden ingredient in a biscuit, this is a highly visible policy with very, very real consequences for animals and the people who love them. You can see how this puts owners in an absolutely impossible position. The law says, sure, you can apply for an exemption to keep your dog, but the hard reality is there are huge costs for things like insurance and neutering that many just can't afford. The other option? Rehome your dog. But the shelters are already packed to the rafters. It's a heartbreaking situation where a policy designed for public safety is clashing head-on with animal welfare. Okay, so we've looked at these big, complex crises. Let's shift gears now. Let's zoom in on how small individual actions and community-level ideas can make a world of difference. For our next story, we're heading over to Japan, where a really simple but honestly brilliant idea is making daily life just a little bit easier for people out and about with their pets. And the solution is so simple. A major convenience store chain is trying out these pet-friendly rest areas. And we're not talking about anything fancy here, just some leash posts and water bowls outside. But it solves a real problem for pet owners who just need to pop in for a quick second. It's a great example of businesses adapting to a world where pets are truly part of the family. From small conveniences to a pretty dramatic intervention, our next story of kindness takes us to Canada. And here, a really harsh winter created a true life-or-death situation for one wild animal. I mean, this is just an incredible story of pure empathy, right? You've got this goose totally trapped and helpless. So local firefighters get the call, and they don't even hesitate. They get all their specialized gear on, head out onto that dangerously thick ice, and just painstakingly chip away until the bird is free. It's such a powerful reminder of how individual acts of compassion really, really matter. So we've seen responsibility and we've seen kindness. Now, let's look at a third part of our bond, our deep-seated need to, well, to figure them out, to really understand the animals we share our lives with. If you've ever had a pet, you have definitely asked this question. Why are they acting this way? Is it just a phase, or is there something deeper going on? Well, a new study out of Australia is getting closer to an answer, at least for our feline friends. The key to all this research is this idea of genetic predisposition. And really, all that means is that for some cats, certain behaviors like anxiety or even aggression might not just be something they learned. It could be literally written into their DNA. And this is why the science is so important. By understanding that certain breeds might be more at risk, owners and vets can be proactive. It's not about labeling a cat as bad, it's about giving them the tailored support they need to live happier, healthier lives.
Okay, so we've looked at crises, we've seen kindness, we've touched on scientific breakthroughs. What happens when you put all these different stories together? What larger picture do they paint about our shared path forward with animals?
When you lay it all out like this, you really start to see the bigger picture, don't you? From the regulatory protection in the US and the policy fallout in the UK, to Japan's community adaptation, Canada's raw empathy, and Australia's quest for knowledge. Each story is a vital piece of the same, really complex puzzle. And that leads us to one last, really crucial question. All of these stories, from recalls to rescues to research, they all show us actively shaping the world for animals. So, as we're making all these decisions, big and small, how are we also shaping our own humanity? It's a question worth thinking about. Thanks for joining me.